Hello, all of you beautiful beings out there, and welcome to the stream. I am Razim, and this is Factorio. And we are using the TF talkies, so by all means, transform me to your heart's content, everybody. And, so, we're redoing the rails again. I've done a bit of it off stream here, but I am switching to one-way rails. This one goes this way, this one goes that way. Hopefully this will solve my problems, but knowing my luck, it probably will not. Actually, I just realized a problem over here that I need to resolve. Yeah, that's an easy fix. Cool. So, yeah, just, I gotta get this fixed real bad. So yeah, that's what we're working on tonight. Let's see here. I've done a couple of roundabouts for, you know, if they need to change rails. I have re-added the exit down here, so that way they come in with deliveries up here, go through, and come back out this way. Hello, Candy Floss. And how are you today? Just double checking a few things. This has been a very difficult endeavor. Trying to figure all of this out and get it all set up and working right and all of that. It has definitely not been easy or simple or anything like that. Like, look at this mess that I have had to make. It should work, but what a fucking hell, it's a mess. And now we've got this going up and this going down. Though I think I might do another roundabout here instead. Yeah, probably will. And a roundabout up here. I've stopped most of my trains, so I'm at least not dealing with them being annoying. Actually, I should have stopped all of them, but we'll see if that persists. Yeah, out of these little spots, I do have only one rail where it is two-way, but that should be okay. Hi, Jim. Mwah. I do have a few points along the tracks, like here, where it just breaks it up, so that way they're not waiting for the entire line to be cleared to go. Hopefully these, rail signals are what I want here. We'll find out if everything breaks, soon enough, I'm sure. And that there. This here. We are basically going to keep this one as is. Just, you know, with things like that. So that way they go in around this and then in there. I do need to put a couple of these along here. Or, you know, one anyways. Yeah, that'll work. How you doing, Raijin? Mwah.
Blarg, I am dead.
No! Why? I hope you got enough sleep.
I'm going back to bed.
Alright. Rest well.
No, I'm not.
There we go.
Huh?
Up.
I don't know what was up with yesterday. But I slept for like 16 hours.
I realized, but it was very sad. I was looking forward to watching Lucifer.
I'm sorry.
It's alright. I still loved you.
Don't plan anything next weekend either.
No? What? Why?
It's the weekend before Thanksgiving.
Ah, fair.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. I mean, aside from me being tired, that was kind of crazy. But I also seem to have hurt my elbow at some point. And the annoying thing about working at Walmart is I'll just get hurt in places and I'll have no idea why. Like there was one time a pallet was dropped on my head. And I didn't have any lasting bad damage after that. But like I just have a weird day and then suddenly my elbow hurts for the next 4 weeks. And I don't know why.
Okay. Please don't get hurt.
Nah, it's part of the job.
I don't give a damn. No hurting the precious panda.
Hmm. Well, unfortunately, you can imagine the kind of people that we hire. And therefore, the kind of people that I have to pick up the slack for.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know what happened. It was actually a while ago that I got this, and it's just not healing. But like, I'm feeling a pretty decent ache in my elbow, and it's sometimes radiating up to my hand. So now I'm just not gonna draw this weekend.
Where specifically on your hand?
Which is a bummer. I mean, it's in specifically my knuckles. So I don't think it's particularly a repetitive strain injury. It could be some amount of arthritis, but I doubt it, because most of the pain is at my elbow or higher as opposed to my hand. I'm pretty sure all the pain in my hand is just radiating from the elbow.
Alright.
But I mean, something weird's been going on with maybe my immune system or something, but like I had a bruise on my other hand from work at some point several weeks ago, and it took over a month to heal. It wasn't even a particularly crazy bruise, it was just slightly yellowing, and it was just for over a month. Do you want to hear about all the random cuts I get from work?
No. Why would I want to? I don't want you hurt, period.
Okay, so Walmart does this funny thing where every like other year they will put forward new kinds of safety box cutters, and they get more elaborate in design to be safer and safer. And we're not allowed to use box cutters or knives that aren't specifically handed out by Walmart. Now, of course, I keep my own knife on hand.
Oh, hi, Gip Gab.
But it's just a lot of fun because hi, Gabby. Every once in a while, one of my managers will see me using this illegal knife that I'm not supposed to have, and they'll be like, "We're worried that you're going to cut yourself," and I just like, all the cuts that I have on my hands and arm right now are from cardboard. I get more cuts from the cardboard than I do from my knife. I've cut myself with my knife once. I've cut myself with cardboard hundreds of times.
Yeah, that checks out.
Yeah, cardboard's kind of weird.
Like, sometimes it's so fucking annoying. Like, I don't know what it is with the manufacturers, but like sometimes they'll have this box that's like the glue to keep the cardboard together is just like the school glue, and it falls apart just trying to get it to the store. And then other times they'll use like alien gorilla glue that I genuinely don't have the grip strength to open. Like, it's easier to just tear the cardboard than to try and remove it by the glue. They'll have, we have a whole lot of packages that are supposed to be opened by perforation, and sometimes the perforated parts are harder to open than just tearing the whole thing apart. Sometimes they'll have boxes that you punch a hole in and then pull out, and it's supposed to be really easy. Then they tape over that and make it so that you can't punch in the hole.
Yeah, that checks out.
Yep. Yeah, to be fair, we mostly just when it comes to cardboard, we just keep it as intact as we can so we can use the boxes for anything else. And it's just most of what we do with cardboard.
My mom kept insisting that I have a cardboard fetish because I would keep a bunch of boxes prior years. And it was like, no, it's just, I've moved a few times now, and every time I was unprepared with boxes. I'd rather just have boxes on hand, ready to go for the next move.
Also illegal. Can't have boxes. Unallowed.
I mean, I'll be honest, as someone that works at Walmart's, if you keep any cardboard boxes in your house, I'd question your sanity. Cardboard boxes are a hazard.
Well, that is why now I'm keeping plastic totes.
Rank up. Hold the line. This hamlet shall not fall.
Chaotic Calling raided my stream with 5 viewers.
Hello there, Chaotic Calling. Welcome in, welcome. How was your stream? Hope you had a good time. Ah, yes, this chaos. Yeah, that should work right. Do I hear the calling? Possibly. Hello there, Green Six Gone. Welcome in. Would you like a regular shout out or would you like a random clip from your channel brought up? And hello everybody, I am Roz and we do all sorts of things here. Right now we are doing some Factorio. We just finished up a short shot of one of our wow, my brain does not want to think of it. Monster Hunter tabletop RPG. We just finished it up. It was very good. Very good indeed. Alright, roll that clip. We have a lot of tabletop RPGs here, Pathfinder, several Pokemon games, couple of Digimon. We have a wide variety of artists that come and join on stream to do art.
Looks like we got a right. What the fuck?
Right, what the fuck?
No, this RV literally spawned in front of me.
Oh. Oh Jesus, I just saw it on.
Wait, was that a Rin? Did I hear a Rin? Ah. The Rin is delightful, kitty. Yes, I recognized American Truck Sim. I really want to do that again. I just have not because I have been, Right now I'm waiting for our move to get done so I can set up my driving wheel again and all that. But I am so excited to do it again. Where are you going, little drone? One of my drones has just decided to just go off across the map. Okay.
The little drum that could.
I suppose so. Alright, this section of the rail should, emphasis on should, be set up and good to go. Yes, pick out this ship. Actually, yeah, considering the amount of trains that are going to go through this area, I'm going to set up a roundabout here.
Roundabout. Good stuff.
Well, I am tired of my trains getting stuck. I thought I fixed it, and it turned out I did not. So now, I am fixing it. In a way that's not as fun, but oh well.
It is what it is.
I am doing what is necessary to keep my factory running. What was that?
I feel like I've heard that somewhere.
Heard what?
Followed. Yeah, I'm doing what is necessary, followed by things ending very poorly.
Oh, well, yeah, that's, generally the way that things go, you know. We do what we must because we can. For the good of all of us, except the ones who are dead. But there's no sense crying over every mistake. You just keep on trying till you run out of cake. And the science gets done and you make a neat gun for the people who are still alive.
I would cry if I missed a steak.
I am a-okay with missing steak.
Sato would be so offended right now.
Yeah, well, Sata's got to actually come hang out to be offended, so yeah.
It's got a point.
Bye, Era.
Right there.
Also, I would love to be a truck driver. I did it forever ago, moving to my grandparents, and I really enjoyed it. I love exploring and such. I just would want to do like one drive a month, and that's it. Because the rest of the month I want to stream. But, you know, get out of the house for a few days, go on a long drive, do the delivery, come back home, and we're good. You know. I just really don't think I'd be able to find a job that would be willing to hire me on that kind of schedule. So, alas.
I have a feeling like if you told them I'll do one drive a month, they'll tell you cordially to do physiologically impossible breeding to yourself.
That is certainly quite the way to put it, Gip Gap.
Thank you. I thought about it for 2 seconds before I said it.
Maybe Fuse can have some hope for you after all.
Because I said a big word.
No, because you actually thought.
Yeah. I can think. Sometimes. I just don't think about what I said before I say it. Those are two very different things. Oh dear lord. You know you're out of water in Timberborn when you lower the floodgate to 0 and water still doesn't come through.
That is what we in the business like to say, like to call, you fucked.
Nah, the drought only lasts 3.2 more days. I am stockpiled on food and water.
Oh, well then you're good.
Yeah.
The fuck you whining about?
I'm not saying that I'm whining. I'm just saying that like that's how you know you're fucked. you got no water.
Right, upgrades. From that to that. This to this. And then that to that. Because this was one of the first bases I set up, and it is very outdated.
Big oof.
Yeah. It's not like it really matters anymore, but I'm still gonna go ahead and upgrade everything, because why not? While I'm already in here, right? Right.
Yeah.
Right. I got you, fam.
Right. Sure. I don't know what he's talking about.
Poggers.
Oh, okay, yeah, now I understand.
For shizzle.
Nah, not cooking. You were cooking before, but now you're not.
No cap?
No.
So indeed, no cap. Cool.
6, 7.
I still have no idea what the hell that one's about.
It's just 6, 7.
Yeah. There's nothing else to it.
It's genuinely the easiest alpha slang to understand because it's actually meaningless. You just say it. 6, 7.
I see.
And by the way, Ido and Giemond finally watched Hundreds of Beavers.
I heard.
Based. What do they think of it?
I think they basically they had the same reaction I did. My first time of what the fuck is this?
See, that's how I can tell you're getting old. You don't understand real art. You look at it and you go, I don't understand this. Doesn't make sense. Time to go back to my times.
Oh, I guess I should give up on
Ido's
my
only
art
comment
dreams.
was, it was an experience. And Giemond says all he knows is beavers now.
See, Geeman understands.
Giemond understands the stock market crash craft.
On the one hand, I still think you were cooked for even noticing, but like, there's a small amount of respect that I can afford you for it.
How are you gonna say I'm cooked for that? What the hell?
Your brain is cooked. You need help. Profession.
Oh, that's what the audiobooks are for.
That's not help. That's just putting your brain on a low flame.
Yeah, I gotta agree with Gib Gab on that one.
I don't know, but I'm learning so much from my audiobooks.
So anyway, yeah, so like, so you have to understand, right? A lot of the, something like Hundreds of Beavers, right, is just an increasing trend to capture either meaninglessness or just a feeling with no meaning. Now, Hundreds of Beavers was just, here, go laugh at this. A coherent plot? Actually, yeah, very coherent movie. Very well structured. Everything is used as it should. Everything is set up, everything is worked out. But there doesn't have to be like a broader point or story to tell. It just is a movie for you to just go and have fun. You don't need to have a broader, bigger message. And in this case, that's kind of what the movie ended up being. Something like 6'7" is just meaningless. You kind of just say it just because you see 6'7", like you see a basketball player's number is 6'7", you go like, yo, 6'7", and you scream it out. And nothing about it. You just do it.
To frame it another way, millennials are largely framed by a large amount of doom and gloom because of the ways that they feel screwed over by the generations that came before them, particularly the baby boomers. Generation Z, and to a lesser extent, Alpha, is framed much more a sense of nihilism and absurdism because they see everything as moot anyway from the get-go, and that they weren't going to get anything anyway. So everything's just kind of whatever.
Really, I would say that's a really particular weirdness to it because I think it swings between one extreme and the other. For Gen Alpha, I think the absurdism is much more highlighted. For Gen Z, there is that like moodness though, but the absurdism is highlighted as
The thing the thing about Gen Alpha is they're not quite old enough as a generation for us to get like cohesive information. So like there's this relatively newer term for zillennials, for the Generation Z that are not quite Zoomers, but feel a little bit closer to millennials, but they're not really actually millennials because they didn't go through a lot of the key landmark stuff that us millennials did. So that's kind of what we're seeing with the Gen Alpha right now. But a better example would be like the meme culture somewhat recently around like 2019, 2020, a little bit earlier, where memes were just like deep fried, cooked random crap with meaningless text over it.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny because it's deep fried.
Well, it's because it's in part of a rejection. Like I think broadly it represents a rejection specifically of norms, in the sense that like not just that everything is smooth, but to a degree everything is always tied into something else. Like it's harder and harder nowadays to just watch a movie and that's it. Like you don't then have to go and follow the extended universe, or you then go and watch like 15 TV shows about it, or you then go and watch a seven season TV show about it. Like there's always something else, something more to consume. You're always getting driven down and further into things. And to a degree, I think there's a strong rejection of typical trends that would follow prior. And so there's like, you get something like, oh, well, that's just a funny meme, and that's it. There's nothing else to it. There doesn't have to be a deeper meaning, because why not just laugh at a meme? Then I would borderline
it's
say
also
that.
because millennials are kind of bad writers. And the millennials have all the writing jobs now.
Yeah. But I would just raise hundreds of beavers as something that is, in a sense, very good example of Zoomer humor. It's just silly. It just is. Completely absurd.
But to go back, like I think since a lot of this is starting from the perspective of slang, a good example would be millennials back when we were the age of Zoomers. The big memes that were going around were advice animals, which were just a particular character with some kind of pun or joke or insightful commentary that correlated to the character that the advice animal was supposed to be delivering. And these memes were regarded as good or bad based on largely the insightfulness or the otherwise accuracy to the lore of what those characters were supposed to be within the pseudo advice animal universe, if you will. But then by comparison, once you got into the memes that were really pushed by Zoomers, it was just genuinely, you just like slap a can of beans as your image, deep fry it, and then the text is like, me and my boys win beans.
Yeah. And I think part of it is too, like, because you went through the early phase of for Gen Z, you went through that early phase of things being kind of just absurd without a point. And in a sense, I think things like 6-7 or like just deep fried memes are the beginning of that. Because like nowadays I keep seeing like, oh well, how could you like best describe a lot of Zoomer memes? And there's a very strong meme presence of very sarcastic or irony-pilled genuine advice. Where like they'll be like, oh, what are you here to do? I'm here to rob a bank. Oh cool man, I don't own the money, just take it. You don't care? No, it's all insured. I don't care about this bank. Take the money. Just don't hurt me. Oh, give me the key. You think I have the key? The manager has the key. The manager already ran away. You fucked up. I mean, do you want to talk about it? Who hurt you? And it's like, oh yeah, there you go. That's a Zoomer meme right there.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, it's absurd, but there's like I think to a degree there is now the return swing where everything was just so irony pilled, so sarcastic that there's a swing around in the other direction, but it's still tainted through that absurdism, through the irony into more interesting mix.
I don't think it's irony pilled and more irony poisoned is the whole thing. Because I think one of the biggest problems with millennials, and especially what comes up in their writing, is everything has to be viewed through the lens of irony or some other sense of lens to frame the world. They can't ever just be genuine about something. You can't like openly admit that you like something because of the fear of backlash.
Well, that's why I think for Zoomer memes specifically, it's not irony poisoned. It just because it still has the influence. You still see the irony present in it. But I am much more likely to go look at like this, I don't know, 20-year-old content creator who's making a meme and they'll just state outright whatever they're doing and they'll be like, yeah, don't care. This. And the rest, like the meme will be framed through some degree of irony, but they will just up and outright at some point say the thing. Whereas, like, I don't see that with, I didn't see it as much in older memes, really.
I think this is something I've thought a lot about actually. Something that's analogous to this is the movies that I watched when I was growing up very largely and frequently had children just going out and doing shit without parental supervision. Like there's a particular movie that I've been thinking about recently. I think it's called Stand By Me, and it's like a bunch of boys just like go out and walk, like they do a multi-day hike that is like actually genuinely slightly life-threatening so that they can go see a dead body.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It's actually a really good movie, and yeah, it's actually a really good movie, and I'm not giving it justice, but like it's also been a long time since I watched it, but that's like the core premise of it. And a whole chunk of it is like the whole coming of age thing and how they formed these bond over the course of that multi-day hike, and there was some drama between them and stuff. But now it's like first of all, children aren't allowed to do that anymore because we've become so sterilized to the point where it's just something that's societally unacceptable to allow children to be unsupervised unless it's by an iPad.
Yeah.
And then as a
on that.
result of that, we're not getting movies that do that anymore. Like, I think to the, like, Halloween Town, for example, a series of movies that very frequently showed children just out and trick-or-treating, and they just go out by themselves in trick-or-treat. And, like, basically immediately after 9/11, that kind of stuff stopped. And that kind of thing just has had such a profound societal impact on the whole separation of the generations. And it's the big thing that you can see as the division between millennials and Zoomers. The key marker is that millennials mostly remember there existing a world where it was okay for children to just go out and do shit unsupervised. And then Zoomers wouldn't have had that.
Yeah, I do recall some very fun times wandering about freely as a kid, but yeah, that definitely ain't happening nowadays. Granted, it got me into trouble many times, but that's beside the point.
That was part of the fun.
Exactly.
Yeah, you're supposed to get into trouble.
How much can I get away with before my parents
Like,
yell at me?
The problem is the kind of trouble that I got into was I went and did that in LA basically, one of the towns surrounding LA, but it was basically LA. That was not so bright, especially when some homeless guy tried to steal my bike.
Did you beat him up?
Well, you could have been Era and illegally set off fireworks in your backyard.
Ah, yes.
That does sound like Era.
No, I did not beat him up. I was, I think like 10 at the time, and he had a knife, and I did not.
One day, Sim.
But yeah, it's like I remember I read an article. This was like probably last year or maybe the year before, after COVID shenanigans, but like a 12-year-old boy, like a 12-year-old boy was walking home from school, and the police picked this boy up, delivered him back to his home, and very nearly arrested the parents for child negligence because the child was walking home from school. The fact that this is where our society is at, and children just aren't allowed to be without specifically their parental supervision, it just has very strong implications for everything about society right now.
Yeah.
Asher-Draven 2022 cheered with 100 eggy bitties.
Hello there, Asher. Thank you for the biddies. How are ya?
And I'm sure to some degree there might even be some elements of culture shock that you experienced, Gabby, since you had to immigrate into this culture as well.
I'm gonna be real. I mean, well, you said the thing about like the going outside, but it just made me reflect on the fact that I think the biggest shock to me was not going outside unsupervised necessarily, despite it's just that like because in my city it was fairly unsafe, right? Like for us, we were just never allowed to just walk out in the street. But a lot of it was just safety, not necessarily just like supervision, because it was like, oh yeah, you're in like an enclosed villa, right? Like, oh, there's just a bunch of unenclosed houses. If you want to get in, you either have to cross this like 25-foot high concrete wall with like electric wiring on top, or you go through one of the gates. But at that point, it's kind of like a safe area. Then, now, okay, now you go out and walk, you all make sure each other are safe, go on, don't care. And that's where, like, I remember at most having that, like, just walking around freedom, or if it was any place that at least had some sort of, like, yeah, no, not any just random person can walk in, like, oh, you go to, like, a club or something, yeah, not like a dance club, just like an area that was fenced off and you paid, you get in, and there you go, you have a bunch of space and buildings to walk around. Like, you go to those places, like, okay, yeah, fine. Or a mall, maybe. But it is still, like, a little trippy to think about the fact that if you'd asked me, like, 7 years ago if I would just walk to school, I would have said, like, no, why would I do that? That's just not safe. I could probably get mugged on the way there. And now it's like, oh yeah, I mean, I'd bike to work if I could. Why wouldn't I?
Aw, sorry to hear that, Asher. I hope they get better soon.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't know, like, to a degree for me, the culture shock was just that feeling of, like, I can just do things now. Like, I can just take public transit to go to university and just walk around. I don't need to, like, worry insanely. I can just do things. Although admittedly, I still very much. I realized it the other day when I just walked out to the corner store at night to go get like a quick something. It still marks me that I cannot just walk down the street at night without constantly looking over my shoulder. It just like it stresses me out to not be doing so, and it was one of those like, huh, that might be something to work on, because being safe is not bad, but also I don't need to be this paranoid.
Alright. I think I've gotten these rails fixed up. And I'm certain that as soon as I start my trains running that I'm gonna find out that no, I did not. And this is bad.
You look over and you see there's 2 sections of the rail on fire and the trains have exploded.
Yeah. Kind of expecting that right now.
But yeah, well, sorry, I just had that reflection on like my particular experience with it, but to a degree I'm not sure with the like, because there's an extent to where it depends. I'm not sure if it's like a location thing or not, because I know, for example, like, with my little sister, like, going to school, like, her classmates, basically, once they turned, like, 15 or 16, it was very much a case of, okay, you can take the car, but be back by noon. Yeah, you can go to your friend's house, that's fine. Yeah, you want to go to the mall, that's fine. Just be back by this time. You have school tomorrow. Call me when you get there. Send me a message. Just let me know you're safe. And then, yeah, just sure, go. And then there were the parents who were unironically like, "Oh yeah, no, I did not. My kid did not go drinking last night. My kid is not hungover at school. I was not negligent. Just let him come home, and I'll discipline him." And then you look away, and the kid is already gone, and the parent doesn't care. And yet nothing ever happens. Go figure. And then there were the spoiled kids.
Well, some of that stuff is generational constants.
Yeah. But for the most part, it was just like basically once people turned like 15, 16, once they could drive, then their parents were pretty much like, yeah, go, I don't care. For a lot of them, at least. Not all of them, but for a fair chunk of them.
I mean, to be fair, once you put up with a child for 15 or 16 years, you'd be happy for that.
Yeah, but yeah, I'm not sure like how that ties into the like unsupervised kids, because I know the specifically that concept here still kind of applied, where anywhere where there was like a broader fenced off area or a safer location, like kids would go trick-or-treating. But then I look outside the door and there ain't nobody trick-or-treating in these areas, especially not in apartment buildings.
I mean, it's like you said, it comes down to the whole safety thing. Like, there's still going to be some suburbs where people feel safe enough for that kind of thing, but after 9/11, it just... Basically, before 9/11, the only places I can imagine would have, like, automatically been somewhere not safe enough to just let your kids out are basically just the biggest cities. And even then, like, I know a whole bunch of Dallas would have just let kids out. I know a whole bunch of Austin would have just let kids out. I know a whole bunch of Houston would have just let kids out. After 9/11, even like some of the safer suburbia areas, you don't really see that. Like, I live in probably one of the safest areas. Like, it's both surprisingly very blue here, as well as very very country. So you've got that very solid mix of community without being overcrowded, without having a lot of the aggressively regressive behaviors that you'll sometimes see in, the red areas. And even then, it's still considered something that's just not okay for kids to go trick-or-treating without very serious, strict supervision and safety.
I do think there is a genuine thing to that I think does matter. And it's like someone quoted it perfectly and it encapsulated my feeling on what I think is part of the issue. And this is like a bit of a culture shock one to me. Community is inconvenient, and Americans hate inconvenience. Because, like, even in Venezuela, right? Like, the second highest crime rate city in the country. Not because, like, it's particularly unsafe, it's just a big city, and there's a lot of crime in it, right? You don't send your kids out to go trick-or-treating randomly. And even still, I do remember, like, in the barrios, like in the little areas, people would still, no matter how desperately poor they were or needy, up until things got really, really bad, you would still see, like, people would just walk outside, grab a chair, sit outside of their home, and just watch kids trick-or-treating around. And they would, like, stay there for a couple hours and drink and chat with people and let kids trick-or-treat. And that's not even, like, a trick-or-treating thing that's, like, particularly big in Venezuela. It was just a thing that, like, oh yeah, let's just let the kids have some fun, we'll just keep an eye on them from a distance. Or, like, churches would hold their events, and even though, like, broader areas may not have been safe, churches would be the centers of community, and the people would just go there to do the things. And in villas, people would put in, like, pull things together to get events going. And I've never seen that here. Like, it still kind of, like, irks me that I just do not see any big communities oftentimes here in the US. And if there are, they're very, very local and not really usually a common thing. Even it's just like an identity thing.
I mean, touching on that thing as a grander thing, I think that's ultimately going to be the downfall of America. I don't know if it's probably not going to happen in my lifetime, but I think America is going to, at least specifically the United States, is going to go through some very serious crap. It's not going to last very long relative to a lot of the other longer lasting empires like China or the United Kingdom.
I mean, that'll be a thing.
And
Like
it's for more or less specifically that reason.
It'll be a thing like to be seen by time. So it bothers me. I feel like if you ask the average American and you propose to them the idea of a community, they'll say yes. But if you tell them sometimes like to have a community event, they have to wake up early, or they may have to put in a bit of effort or a bit of money or do a little bit of something or go to school after school hours to attend the event, they'll like look at you and they'll say, no, fuck you.
Well, on that, it's also because America's really focused on the whole idea of hustle culture. You've got to work. Everything is perfectly optimized around working and maximizing your money and income.
Yeah, my boss is an asshole and won't let me have any time off.
I mean, yeah, it just it bugs me too, because then even places that I often feel should be those like community centers, right? Or should at least try to push for that idea. Like I was seeing the whole like I don't know if you saw the whole uproar the other day with like churches and baby formula. And so if you don't know, like a woman did a TikTok thing where she started calling churches, whether they be far or nearby, and it was like, hey, let me call like 30, 40 odd churches, and she would play a recording of a baby crying. And she would ask if the church could give her baby formula, because a lot of them do donation drives, food drives, and like, hey, could you spare a can of baby formula? My baby hasn't eaten all day, and I don't want her to go hungry again. Basically, almost all of them said no. Either they don't give food, they don't have baby formula, and they can't do anything, or I'm sorry, the food donations are only available to our members. So if you were a member of our church. And the main ones that offered assistance were either black churches, Catholic churches, or Islamic churches, like mosques. Of which two of them were really funny, because both of the Catholic churches, I'm pretty sure, had a Hispanic attendant. And one of them literally just went, hey, look, okay, I'll arrange it. Come down here and I'll see if someone can do it. And if someone can do it, I will give you the money for you to buy the baby formula. Meanwhile, the very clearly American pastor just being like, I'm sorry, that's only available to our members.
Why do you think I hate organized religion so much?
Actually, that would be the one point against it, because normally you would expect for a very local, decentralized church to specifically be more community-centric. But in this case, it was the opposite. A lot of the bigger churches from more organized religion were the ones that were better capable of providing for the community. Because I hate on the Catholic Church as much as the next person, don't get me wrong. I don't like them. I'm not Catholic, even though I was raised Catholic for a very good reason. But even still, they adhere to Catholic doctrine, and they push that as quote unquote the ideal. And when you go to the community, they're like, yeah, like in Venezuela, basically every other church was either partly a hospital that would do, help to people who needed it, or they were food drives, or they were near a library. They would always be somewhere where they could try to offer a service. And you could tell the ones that weren't were because they were a little bit on the, fancier side. Using my hand right now to display money.
Just to steel man the churches a little bit though, yes, that has very, very bad optics, but I also think, again, going back to the whole America has really focused on hustle culture, there's just entire cultures centered around how you're going to take advantage of these kinds
Community type thing.
of these kinds of, you know, community helpfulness, even if necessarily you're not so much in need of it. In case in point, the lady was playing a recording of a baby to gain the sympathy of the person that they were talking to. And even if it was just a social experiment, come on, people are doing that for. And I think, especially when you get to the less organized churches, they're not going to have the resources to handle that kind of thing. Um, just to compare it to Walmart, for example, I see very frequently people who shop at multiple Walmarts to try and take advantage of specific things that they catch onto. Like the Hot Wheels people that love getting all the Hot Wheels, they will come in and just straight up start digging through our freight to find the specific Hot Wheels that they want. I've seen this so many times, and I know they go to all the Walmarts in the area to do this. And it's hard to be in the position of trying to provide for the community when the community is so impersonal and cold in return to that.
I mean, but it becomes cyclical at that point, right? Because if your community is cold and indifferent to you, and therefore you are to the community, it just kind of feeds into itself. Like, ideally, you being a part of, or the community itself, is like your line of defense against it. Because, like, sure, a smaller church might have issues dealing with this, but also if you have the favor of the local community and people catch on to the fact that, like, you're playing a scheme on the church, ideally they'll be the ones to rat you out, or to, like, basically collectively shame you and be like, well, now you're taking advantage of the church that I give money to, so they help people in need, and you're just taking advantage of it. I'm not gonna stand for this.
That's the thing, though. I don't think those are like effective punishments anymore. We've pushed so far into individualism that there's an outright narcissistic self-righteousness baked into the individualism. Like, even if other people are shaming you for a thing, it not only doesn't phase some people, it outright invigorates them to continue to push harder with what they're doing because they think they are so far in the right that they have to prove something.
Yeah, I mean, to a degree, I'm not denying that there aren't issues with it. It's just, I think it still falls into, like, that, you know, one or two, like, a few things may slip through a broader, like, community assistance program. Yeah, they probably will. And that's why, like, for example, I see, like, for a lot of those churches, they were like, hey, so we do food drives. Like, we don't necessarily individually give away food, but we do food drives. So if you come down here in the morning or at these times, we can, like, look to give you food. And basically all of them were like, hey, do you want to come down here in person? For the obvious reason, if they see you with a baby, it's a little harder to, you know, impersonate than it is over the phone. Sure. Like, I can understand that there are, like, ways that they already try to deal with it. The fact of the matter is they already have those programs open.
Also, as a side note, in the case of specifically giving away formula and giving away food, I know in particular that's one thing that's just kind of been sterilized into extreme difficulty with all the things that could go wrong. Like, for example, the classic thing of if you have a pizza place, you throw away so much pizza, and all across the world, people will be complaining about all the food waste of all the pizza that you throw away, even though realistically it's because of people placing orders and then not picking it up. But there's the huge reason why you can't just give that food away is itself a matter of safety and regulation. Like, you can't just overbake pizzas and then donate extra pizzas generally.
I know that, like, when I first started working, you know, night shift at, the college, they would have the 7-Eleven nearby would happily give out, you know, I'd go in there and they'd be like, "Oh, hey, we've got this these old roller items. You want them?" And I'm like, "Hell yeah." And then at one point they were forced to stop because some homeless guy got free stuff and sued them because he got sick, even though they told him it was old and, you know, not good. And he won. He won, and now 7-Eleven will, they very specifically go out of their way to ruin anything before they throw it into the dumpster. Because they also had that problem of... Go ahead.
I was gonna say, I deal with a similar thing at my work where we used to give away like spare food and whatnot to the homeless because we'd always toss stuff a little bit before it would go out. Then we'd get plenty of people come in, and we'd just, you know, if they wanted it, we'd give it to them. And then, at least in this area, you know, once we started doing that, they started coming by more, and then just blatantly stealing shit all the fucking time. So it's like, now we just don't give people anything, because every time we have, it's just encouraged people to just shoplift like crazy.
Yeah, that's another
We've also caught them, like, you know, diving into our fucking dumpster.
I mean, it also runs right back into the end for the this specific problem that, like, basically everything is hustle here. Because admittedly, like, I'm pretty sure if you told a restaurant, hey, if you're gonna throw away like food that's probably pretty fine, why not let's set up like a community thing where, hey, look, there's a community center, they'll process unused food. Not like, oh, you ate half the pizza and you throw it away. Okay, that you're not gonna give that away. But if it's like, oh well, we had these like leftover pizzas that never got picked up, let's just send them over and they can check it, make sure it's good, and give it away. Like, if you build like systems to at least reduce waste, I think both of those problems get solved. You don't have to like leave it up to the individual place and then let them get sued with no protections, but you can also put in a system to like help with that. Because I know in Venezuela, once like a lot of the hunger started, that's what a lot of the restaurants would do. They would have like a place that would give away a bunch of the food that they like. The restaurant would give them the food that was they didn't want to serve, either because like, oh well, it's a day old, we're not supposed to be able to serve, like we shouldn't serve it, but also we don't want to throw it away, so like, here you go. We prepared this order, didn't ever give it away or sell it, so like, here you go. And they would take it, look through it, make sure it's good, and then here you go. Next day, morning, heat it up for the starving people.
On a grander scheme, I just don't think that's ever going to really work for the people of the United States, because I think there is an extremely horrendous I guess empathetic hole within the United States that is going to be very difficult to be filled, and will ultimately just kind of prevent these sort of things from ever working. Because, like, yeah, sure, I would love to. I'll be honest, I love working at Walmart. I know how crazy that sounds, but I actually enjoy feeling like I'm helping my community out by creating a reasonable place for them to shop at. I like keeping things organized. I want things to be available for our customers who mostly need this stuff. Like, I'm in a position where I do a lot of problem solving that directly helps a lot of these things. And I'm happy about that. I feel good about that.
Mm-hmm.
But I also don't really know anyone in my community, despite the fact that it's kind of small. And there's just this overwhelmingly baked in individualism within the United States that I think has gone way too far And I don't know if there's really a suitable way to effectively detox from that for the society as a whole.
I'm gonna be real.
I mean,
It's
it's even.
Hmm?
Go ahead.
just I think it's still a fairly new development, all right? Because like even up to the 70s, there were plenty of public amenities like public pools, public parks that people would congregate. Like that idea of the community existed more, especially with the emergence of like third spaces, places that like the government actively supported. Like what was it up until like the 70s, the US actively supported the whole like, oh yeah, we want to place pools in like every other community. That way kids can be athletic and do stuff and they can just go swim in a swimming pool. And then, people complain because the recipients of like they started building pools and to be blunt, black communities, and people were like, no, we can't have that. We don't like those people. And then they stopped like supporting it largely because the propaganda machine got working and saying that it was helping lower income families.
I mean that is part of it too. I do think there's I don't exactly think it's necessarily explicitly a racial component. I do like systematically black people have gotten it the worst, but I think it could have functionally been any race. It could have very easily been the Irish that got in this situation instead.
I mean, okay, to be fair, this was like
and
1970s. This was like right in the middle of the Civil Rights Act
Yeah.
shenanigans. That's partly why I'm in.
Yeah.
Because that was a heavy component.
I think like one of the things that pulls into this is that not only is there no real sense of being an American for a lot of people, to some crowds that's even outright shameful to consider yourself an American. Like it's almost it's almost a dog whistle for certain racist undertones to a lot of people. And I think that's really poisonous to our community as a whole. Because I think even though like obviously there's a lot of faults, there's a lot of things that I wish the Chinese did differently. There's a lot of politics that I don't agree with on China. They have a rich cultural history that at this point, no matter like what kind of social upheavals they go through, they have that strong backbone of a cultural history to like really lean onto sometimes. And to some extent there's like a lot of tradition there, and some of it isn't great tradition, sure, but I think that's very important. And the UK is possibly a better example because they were very largely colonizers, but they do also, they have that history. There is a sense in being British. I don't think there's a very strong sense in being American, despite the attempts to be made. And I think if you look at like how the United States were formed with Manifest Destiny, yes, we had those public amenities, and yes, they were taken out for very obviously unsavory reasons. It's just baked into the identity for a lot of people in the United States that we deserve better at all times, at the detriment of others if necessary.
You're kind of right in that, like, because to be fair, right now, if you just ask any random person, like, why would you be proud to be an American, right? Like, and to be fair, I think there are some things going for the U.S. in
Big
terms
drugs,
of, like, I think there are, because this is what's hard to sometimes, because if you look at it from the outside, you would be surprised at how many people want to be an American. Like, it's actually impressive how many people would kill for a chance to be able to just, like, here, have an American citizenship.
Most of the people with the best American spirit are immigrants, in my experience.
Mm-hmm. Because fundamentally, like, if you're an immigrant, right, and you look at the United States, what I see for me, and this is true for like a lot of people in my family, this is true for a lot of the people I've spoken with, it holds it down to the same. You have a country with, at least up until like a year or two ago, very robust civic institutions, a strong democratic tradition and very heavy values in terms of freedom. And sure, however shaky that boat might be, however many ups and downs there may have been, the fact of the matter is, it's been a constant push to achieve the values that the US is supposed to hold in high regard. To the point where, like, the ideas of, like, freedom of speech have changed and evolved over time. But generally speaking, they've just gotten better over time. Like, say what you want about things in the past. 100 years ago, if you made very explicit illicit content, you could be jailed for distributing like degeneracy or whatever. And nowadays, you can just make it. Sure, again, I know there are issues with it, but that's like a thing that to people in other parts of the world is like unfathomable. That like you would actively be protected by a court if you spoke out against the government. Because here you can do that. You can complain about the government and it's fine. Obviously with a reason, but it's fine. And there are countries where you just can't do that without like your family being arrested. And so like there are things that are, I think, important in terms of what it should mean to be an American. But frankly, for most people, like life is just really hard, and there's just an obvious expectation of, well, life has just continued to be hard, so why should I value being an American? And
But I think largely people are making it hard for themselves because of that aforementioned hustle culture. And I think to an extent, like, while I absolutely appreciate and like that America has a strong base on immigration, I also think we're kind of accidentally self-selecting into the most hustleless of all people. Because like if you want to be an American and you don't live in America, you're probably someone that wants to hustle and make a better life for yourself. And I think like you do that enough generations, we're kind of accidentally self-selecting into narcissism, to be honest.
I mean, you're not wrong. It's why I still think it's particularly like disgusting to just be like, oh, because this is to me what I think is one of the strongest like things that America has to offer. And like you see this with so many immigrant waves. Like some of the people who have been most influential to American culture and history have not been like the wealthiest immigrants or the skilled immigrant workers. It's been immigrants who came here in times of need and made a home. Because to them, it's not a matter of like, oh, well, if I come here, I have more job opportunities and I can make more money. It's like, I came here because I have to. And through all the trials and tribulations that it comes down to, they made a home here. But it wasn't like, oh, well, I am going to bring Ireland to New York. It was like, hey, I am going to like adapt into the place. Yes, there's going to be ups and downs, but I get to bring a part of Ireland to New York, and in turn, the people who make a home in this country
Nice
then
lightning.
adapt a bit of America.
Very nice lightning.
What's Volgora?
One of the planets.
Oh. Oh yeah, that's right. Factorio has the multiple like planet travel thing.
Yeah,
I'm
which
gonna look
I could have gotten into forever ago now, and yet I keep getting sidetracked.
Literally sidetracked.
Yes, literally sidetracked.
This game has more than trains.
I mean, you joke, but I'm not seeing Zim playing the Factorio. No, Zim's just playing an RTS game here. I just look at him pan over, build an entire base, and then he just goes to fix the minutia.
Yes, this. There are more than trains in this game.
He can't even English anymore. I think the Factorio brain rot is getting to him.
Getting to me? Have you seen how many hours I put into it this week alone?
I don't think it's a Factorio.
Hey,
brain
hon,
rot.
it's
I think
almost midnight.
Yeah. I'm going a half hour
But
after.
it's perfect. We can watch a horror movie after, right?
Tonight we are doing Has Been Hotel.
We can rewatch Hundreds of Beavers.
I'd rewatch Hundreds of Beavers. Again. But yeah.
Oh, crap. Maybe I should make my construction train smaller. It
Are you
is slightly trapped, yes. Alright. You just continue on. Alright, now I get to manually drive this over there. Oops.
And then another train plows right into you.
I am 100% expecting that.
And by train, I don't mean Raijin. I mean what?
No! I need you to go that way.
But yeah, like, maybe this is something that is just kind of a growing pain for a relatively new nation. Maybe, like, given a couple dozen more generations, things will be smoothed out. But it's also the case, like, if you consider what it's like to be someone in the United States, it's like every generation in the United States has experienced war. And I think there's a decent chance that mostly you could say this is true of most nations.
Throughout history.
But yeah. But I feel like it's a little bit it's a little bit, I feel, magnified because of the impact of World War I and World War II. There's a whole lot of generational trauma that's still lingering around for anyone who had parents dating back to that. Like, just the whole kind of it's almost a trope now for some people to have grandparents that were in World War II and then had such strong PTSD as a result, or Vietnam, and then they had such strong PTSD as a result, and that completely impacted the way that they were raised and grew up because they were dealing with parents with PTSD. Like, even I experienced that with my own grandfather, who after the war basically just was an insane alcoholic.
Actually raised the very specific point that to that I would probably blame Vietnam, Afghanistan, and the second Iraq in particular more than anything. Because like war is potentially very destructive to countries, but it also does shape their national character in a way. Like World War One was probably the worst in terms of, for many countries, shattering their confidence and hope in the government. And even still, it just like World War One destroyed a lot of credibility for a lot of governments. Because like for half of World War One, it was like, oh well, we hired this general and we put him in the job and he fought 13 battles and he got like 200 million people killed and like it was a disaster. So we replaced him with a new guy who basically did the exact same thing. And it just like World War One was a circus, and it was all pointless. There was basically nothing. There was no broader unifying message. There was nothing. World War One was the pointlessness and cruelty of war, and the indifference of governments to the lives of people laid plain and barren. For most countries, like there were a few countries, the United States actually probably being one of them, that ended up coming out of World War One to some extent better off at a national image level than they were previously. Because World War One was pretty much the time when America really set itself up for World War Two, and World War Two was the war where the country came together to defeat, the evil people. And in World War Two, they were exceedingly evil, unjustifiably so. There was like no redemption for these people. And say what you want about World War Two, like there are some million issues that I could raise regarding the U.S. in World War II in terms of how it handled the post-war, how it treated its parents, everything like this. It can be a huge list, even down to like some of the most influential and coddled people the US had after World War II were people who came from Germany and Japan because the US chose to coddle them very hard. But even still, I feel like to World War II, you could ask people, and there was at least a point to it. Like, there was a goal, there was a point to supporting the war effort. But for basically everything after, there's nothing. Like, what was the point of those wars? Either the US lost, or it was for a nakedly obvious self-interested or completely unjustifiable reason. I think that probably hurts more than just the wars itself, because it's much harder to cope with PTSD and shell shock or whatnot than, well, I have it, and it was for no reason other than, I don't know, serving some oil company's interests.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's definitely extremely simplifying it, but I do think it's like a profound effect on the general American citizen as a whole. Anyone that's been here for several generations, like, you have generational trauma relating to war, and obviously most people would have that regardless of where they're coming from because there's so much war all the time. But I think it's a little bit particular with the United States because, like, if you look back at our history, we've, like, there was the War for Independence and World War One, Civil War, World War Two, Afghan War. There was the Great Depression, Vietnam. Like, it's just been nonstop war and tragedy. Like, the most peaceful period that we realistically had was like the 6 or 7 years before COVID.
I mean,
And then COVID happened.
Then COVID
Yes,
happened
but-
indeed.
yes, but I would also argue that, like, I think the most transformational wars for the US in particular were obviously independence, the
TF
Civil War.
Ubu.
Alright, so independence, the Civil War was probably one of the most, but then a big part
We're
of it
still
is like,
feeling the ramifications of the Civil War.
yeah.
We're still split as a result of that.
And to me, but part of the big problem is that, and I think this is gonna sound weird, but hear me out. The U.S. doesn't really suffer for those wars, for a lot of them. Like, aside from the Independence Revolutionary War, most of the time the impact of those wars has been really muted on the U.S. itself, but not on the people. And to an extent, like, if you look at a lot of other countries' histories, the countries that suffered the most kind of went through the same boat in terms of how their people handled the war after. Because, like, if you fight a war, but it's for, like, there's a genuine national survival aspect to it. It's like, oh, well, we have to win this war or they're going to kill us all. Or we have to win this war or there will be no country afterwards. Like, I think that hits very different. But for the US, the fact that for a lot of its wars, there was never really an existential danger, and yet the country treated it like an existential danger, I think that also, like, impacts a lot the way the US behaves. The fact that there's never really been, like, for most of these wars, especially after the 1900s, like, there's no broad reconstruction efforts for infrastructure where, like, yeah, if you have a large war and it's really destructive, at least afterwards, you know, the country goes on massive spending programs, massive infrastructure projects,
Or
goes on and does a bunch
or
of
like
rebuilding.
maybe I have no reason to be proud of the victories that we make in our wars. Like, all this stuff is done through so many layers of proxy and irony that it's like, okay, so we're making improvements that are so far detached from how we actually experience lives that to my everyday, all I'm experiencing is just seeing the trauma and PTSD. And the way that's particularly impacting the US is in that narcissism.
And
Yeah.
to be fair,
'Cause, like,
in a lot of ways, we're not even seeing that side of it. Because they try to, like, in general, that's all covered up. Like, oh, no, you can't talk about the mental problems that the soldiers are going through after coming back. No, no. PTSD isn't a real thing. No. You do still see that.
I mean, in particular, I think more than anyone, probably the Vietnamese veterans got shafted the hardest. Because, like, I'll still say, for World War II, there was something. Like, even if you go for the most naked display of self-interest, the US won World War II more than any other country. The amount of global influence and power and pull that the US had after World War II was unrivaled. And if you go to like a lot of businesses, a lot of them had their start in the aftermath of World War II, like selling stuff to destroyed countries where the US was refunding the construction effort. Like, oh, the Marshall Plan, Japanese reconstruction. American companies sold a lot of the equipment used in their reconstruction. So if you go down to like where some of these countries or some of these companies have historic ties, you will find a lot of it in the post-World War II period. Where did a lot of these like immigrant waves come from? A lot of them were from World War II. And even down to South American countries. The fact that like US rebuilding efforts had an impact on the immigration of South American countries, you see like US influence everywhere post-World War II. But then like what is there for Vietnam or Iraq or Afghanistan? It's just people return home traumatized with PTSD. $1 trillion were spent, and what do you get out of it?
Or even on a bonus, slightly more personal thing, here in Texas, one of the things that we're taught is the United States literally turned their nose up on Texas during the whole the war and the battle for the Alamo and all that. And that we literally got screwed over by the United States. We're taught that. And I mean, to an extent, it's kind of true as well. Obviously, there's more details going in. But going back to the whole thing with the Civil War, like half of the nation thinks that they won the Civil War. The other half thinks that they didn't. The other half thinks they lost. And especially here in Texas, it's like, I don't know anyone, well, I don't know many people that are outright explicitly racist. Sure, there is still some of that systemic stuff behind the barriers. But what I do know is a whole lot of people who regard the fact that Texas is part of the whole union as being the grace of us just not trying to rebel and return to Mexico.
Dear Lord, there was so much that I read on not just Texan, like broadly Southern, but specifically Texan issues in the education and history where it's like, hey, we were Texas. Every time. Yeah, like there's a whole thing I read about how Texas treats its history. I mean, to put it bluntly, was slavery, and it's like, or immigration, and it's like, oh yeah, we were like our own identity. But a ton of the reason Texas even rebelled in the first place was because a bunch of American settlers came to Texas. And when Texas tried to be like, no, wait, okay, we have to impose some rules on this, American settlers in Texas were annoyed that the country they moved to and where they started setting down roots and where they started really messing with issues related to like domestic politics in Mexico, like they were upset that Mexico wasn't liking that. To the point where they rebelled, and it's like the hypocrisy of ever being a Texan and being like, no, I don't want immigrants. Meanwhile, the only reason Texas exists is because Texas let Americans in. What do you do with that? But that never gets taught that way. Like there's never usually an actual genuine insight into the very issues that led to Texas's independence. It's always framed as like, oh well, Texas Texas always has been. It always was, basically. But just the fact that America tried to, or Mexico, I believe, if I remember correctly, tried to abolish slavery, and the Texan settlers from America did not like that, to the point where they would be willing to rebel because Mexico abolished slavery. I don't remember if they did or they tried to, but yeah,
Oh.
like
I got distracted from this conversation, and I have come back to a very interesting whatever's going on right now.
I need to bitch about Texas being really cringe with its history, basically.
Let's not.
I mean, that's fair. It just Texas. I'm sorry, I know you may be from Texas, but dear Lord, Texas. You
No,
know,
that's fine.
I do think it would be funny if Texas split into 5 states in the end, though.
Texas just secedes from the
I mean,
world.
supposedly that whole loophole was abolished. That would be nice. I believe that whole loophole was actually abolished when we rejoined the Union. So I also never really took the time to brush up on the legal specifics of it after high school and all of the rumors that were going around during high school talking about how we're going to secede any day now. Which at the time I thought was stupid. But for the most part, right now, I'm only framing this as like culturally, as unique individual people, we've just gone through so much generational trauma regarding war that we don't even get the benefit of seeing the fruits of the victory. Like the way I was taught here in Texas is basically the only wars that had any sense of victory to it were the war for independence, the whole reason that we're America in the first place, and then World War II. And then all the other wars that we've experienced have just been technically, a lot of them have been very beneficial to us as Americans, but culturally, L after L after L.
To be fair, I mean, there's kind of a point in that. Like, for the average American, the main wars that were a W were just like, okay, you can argue for like Mexican American War, Spanish American War, like as a geopolitical as element, especially because they weren't particularly destructive wars. So like in a very material sense, there isn't a lot of the like big harms of war that you'd expect, or like the quote unquote Indian wars, like the whole conflict with Manifest Destiny. But if you just go into like the more modern or the big ones, independence, the Civil War was a W for the United States, much as how the country doesn't want to admit it. World War II. World War One was huge in beginning that American dominance, but even then, there's still some truth in how veterans of World War One were treated. Fair in there. But basically afterwards, I mean, Vietnam was bad, Afghanistan bad, Iraq 2 bad, and Iraq 1 was the only one where you can justifiably say like, yeah, the average American citizen benefited from the United States effectively maintaining its superpower status. Because that was the show of strength that basically reaffirmed American dominance on the world stage. Had America lost it or just not intervened, it would have lost so much prestige, it wouldn't have been funny. Which is half the reason they even did it. But like after that, I mean, what is there for the average American? There's just nothing except trauma and like the VA denying your benefits because you did not suffer a war-related injury. Like, there's some truth to it, I think.
But yeah, I think it just all comes together, and culturally, America is poisoned by the amount of individualism and narcissism that's baked into the system as a whole. That, like, yes, I do agree with you that there should be more community stuff. I would love to see more community stuff. But I don't think it works because of you know,
Americans.
gestures around.
Yeah, it just. I think at some point it'd just require a very strong It'd require enough people to want it and be willing to do it, and then for like a good shove forward. Because I think once the momentum gets rolling, there's a strong likelihood that it continues rolling properly. If it like continues being pushed. But there is no incentive for a push at the moment. Because that would cost money.
I think it's similar to the whole recycling thing, which I've talked about with you before. Like, working at Walmart, we go through so much plastic every single day. It's genuinely like we can make several beds of plastic every single day. Some days we double that. Like coming up on Thanksgiving, it's just like nonstop cardboard and plastic and cardboard and plastic. The amount that the consumer can do by recycling is genuinely a rounding error. If we actually cared about reducing plastic and cardboard, we would reduce consumption. And no one wants to do that. And until America is ready to do that, I don't... Recycling is just something people do to feel good about themselves for all the sins that they commit.
I am very much a strong supporter of recycling myself, because even if what we as consumers can do on that front is basically worthless in comparison, we should still at least do something, because those corporations aren't going to. And that's half the problem.
That's where it falls in. I mean, well, two things. Number one, every time a train comes close to you, I swear it's anxiety-inducing that it slows down at the last moment. How do you do this?
I have the exact same anxiety.
It's terrifying. But yeah, like it falls into that specific problem too, where like I think there's an element to where people don't even realize that they can just solve the problem by wanting something and then advocating or like pushing for it. Like I get there's a lot of like powerlessness, but at the same time it's like if people wanted to feasibly put into place systems that would discourage production, like eliminate a lot of oil subsidies for just the reason, like one of the reasons plastic is prevalent is because it's really cheap. If you make it more expensive, you could feasibly reduce production or use or push companies to find alternatives. And those are like viable. There are things that can be done more than readily to encourage companies to do things. And one of them literally just comes down to like, why do they do it? You look deep enough and it's like, well, yeah, plastic is really cheap because they get a lot of subsidies to make plastic. Why do they get a lot of subsidies to make plastic? I mean, basically it comes down to people pay people who could make the rules. You start removing a lot of those incentives and you start changing behaviors really quickly. And it's like a power that I just think people don't realize they have sometimes. Things can just change. And within that, like, I think the biggest example really comes down to like the sheer amount of waste that is completely unnecessary. Like the whole like companies will just take a bunch of stuff and because there's too much, they will dump it to keep prices raised. That's not even an exaggeration. There's the whole thing where like if you go to a bunch of like Amazon warehouses where they just take a lot of the excess stuff and then they'll just store it there and take it off of the shelves metaphorically, and like a couple of years down the line they'll take a bunch of that accumulated stuff and just sell it for pennies essentially, because you know they don't want it on the market when it's being sold. And then you know once it's either obsolete or outdated or whatever they say, they just start selling it for pennies. Like the guy who bought an AMD GPU that was defective, quote unquote, and it cost $1,000, but he bought it for like $5. There's so much that can be done just to reduce waste, and people don't care.
Okay, total tangent, but one thing that I've been sitting on for a long time, I abhor the state of nutritional marketing in the United States. It infuriates me so much. Like, first of all, our generation was coming off of the whole fat scare where any amount of fats inside a product were a bad thing. So all of those fats were replaced with fucking sugars, which is one of the leading reasons why we have the obesity epidemic right now, is because everything has so much sugar in it because fats were considered evil. But now we're entering, like, we've been going into this new era of protein dominated marketing where everything is marketed from the standpoint of how much protein it is. And it's total bullshit because you're just creating this system where the average consumer is getting this idea that all of their protein intake is coming from specifically meat. But realistically, you can get so much protein from potatoes and lentils and so many other sources of vegetables that are healthy and plant-based and far more renewable and cheaper. But instead, like, there's products now, like, if you look at the ingredients for a whole lot of frozen meals in Walmart, there's actually going to be a lot of products that generally just add hydrogenized soy protein to increase the amount of protein in their product so they could advertise it as being high in protein.
I have to say that Rex has kind of fallen into that a bit. Where it's like, he, for a while there, I got him, I taught him otherwise, but for a while there he was like, well, this meal doesn't have any meat, therefore it's got no protein, and you need to get protein. And I'm like, dude, you realize there's a lot of protein in cheese, right? You realize this thing's got a lot of protein, right? It does not have to have meat just to have protein.
Like, the funniest part is not even just that, it's what kind of meat people will go to. Because it's the same thing where it's like, oh, what kind of meats have the most protein? And you ask someone, they're like, oh, probably like steak, like beef, right? No. Some of the most high protein meats are either chickens, or some sort of poultry, like some sort of bird is usually pretty safe, and tuna. Like fish. It's just seafood and birds. And then in between that, eggs have a lot of protein, if I remember correctly.
Yes.
And if you move away from like fish and birds, it's all the way through either plant or some variation of egg and or cheese or milk. Not just cow milk, mind you. A lot of different milks, including plant milks. But you know, you have to eat steak to be healthy. Chicken is not enough. Chicken is a kid's food.
Yes! Yes! Die!
Oh my god, Lucci, don't even remind me. I still can never get over that like one guy who hates chicken nuggets because he says it's like unrefined, unclean food that we shouldn't be feeding children. When realistically, chicken nuggets are basically all the leftover parts of chicken that we don't really tend to eat, put into an edible thing that people like. Not to say it's perfectly healthy, but it's literally like, oh, chicken nuggets are a great way to use all of the chicken. Like, don't leave waste. That's good. No, because it's chicken nuggets and those are disgusting.
Yeah, that's another thing. Like, there's this whole scare of processed foods. And yes, some processed foods are bad because some methods of processing are adding a whole bunch of sugars and additives to make sure that it doesn't spoil in the process of the packaging. But technically speaking, if I cook a meal for you, pour it in a bowl, then deliver it to you, that counts as a processed meal because I processed it.
Mm-hmm.
I remember like there was kind of a thing going around where people were talking about how gross McDonald's chicken nuggets were because like it's just this pink slurry, and it's like, yeah, that's what happens when you break down the chicken into a slurry to cook into chicken nugget shapes.
To be fair, when
It's
it
just
comes to
chicken.
make like,
It is
I
still
guess
a
for
chicken.
I guess for me it's more I just don't like McDonald's because it's really low quality food. But
To be fair,
me.
McDonald's chicken nuggets is probably like half chicken, half hydrogenized soy protein at this point because, you know, protein marketing.
Probably.
I do remember something about how like half of a McDonald's chicken is like in terms of weight, half of it is chicken and the rest of it is basically just breading.
Breading and
Which,
fat
like-
and stuff, yeah. Which
Yeah.
that is a lot of breading. That's the reason why they're not necessarily healthy.
Yep.
But like as an example though to how ridiculous the protein marketing is, your typical medium-sized russet potato, your average russet potato would have like almost 6 grams of protein. So for example, I could eat 10 of those potatoes every single day and hit my protein requirements with my weight and height. If I ate nothing else but potatoes, I would be good on protein. And I wouldn't even be gaining weight from eating 10 potatoes a day. I would be just barely like, I would be fine. I would possibly even lose weight from that diet.
Switching my diet to 10 potatoes a day just to try out the Raijin diet.
Actually, I've got a friend that did a.
I don't-
I've got a friend that was that went the whole potato heavy starch kind of diet, and she wound up having a lot of weight loss and wound up having like she's got fibromyalgia and stuff that all started to go away. And like, I'm not necessarily being one of those, you know, switch your diet kind of people. I'm just saying that I've seen it personally. You know, it's something that most dietitians say is bad for you, and it's like, I don't know, I've seen evidence to the contrary, and I've seen research to the contrary. Like,
Okay, actually, to be fair.
Yeah, like the go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, real quick. To be fair, I kind of get sometimes why they say it because a family member who works with works in this field, and basically one of the things that she's informed us is not necessarily about being exact with what you're telling someone. It's just the knowledge that like if you tell someone this is a way to have a really good diet without being unhealthy, there's a good chance basically they're gonna fuck it up and do something stupid and like not eat enough protein or whatnot. So a lot of it will often have like, yeah, you don't just go for what's entirely healthy. Take some slightly more fattening or slightly unhealthier things to make sure that you do cover all your bases, because people just don't, people aren't like that. But people often, like, to be fair, there are also a lot of very bad dietitians who are like, no, you have to eat red meats and white meats and fish and grains and everything. And you're like, okay, well, you don't have to.
I had a nutritionist.
As
at
a
one
small
point.
aside to this.
It's okay to live.
Yeah,
your
go
life
ahead,
a
tell
bit.
your V8 story again.
No, not what I was going to say.
That was the most shade you've ever thrown, Jesus Christ. This is it.
Rude, good God.
I feel bad for you, Jesus Christ, Reagan. Poor Zin.
You know, just my stream and all, and I've been having very little opportunity to actually talk throughout the entirety of this.
What were you gonna say?
I don't even remember now.
If it helps, I was saying the thing about like diets and dietitians who just offer bad advice.
I don't remember.
That's fair. But no, I was gonna say that I do agree with you though, that like I do genuinely think, if anything, a lot exercise is good. You should exercise. You should be physically active, 100%. But I do think oftentimes people will be more like, you should exercise instead of you should change your diet. When realistically, changing your diet is not only easier, honestly, it'll have a way bigger impact on your health than like, you should exercise 7, 6, 5 days a week instead of 1 or 2. Or, you know, if you're my cousin and you're insane, you exercise twice a day because clearly that's healthy. And not even lightweight exercise, mind you. An exercise for an hour, twice a day. What are
All
your
right.
accumulators in?
Sleep well there, Lightning. And hello there, Tenny Floof. What was that?
What are rare accumulators?
I believe he's referring to quality, but I have no idea.
Well, what's an accumulator?
Accumulators are basically batteries.
Oh!
These.
Okay, yeah, now I remember.
Okay, yeah, he's referring to quality. But yeah, accumulators are batteries.
There's quality in Factorio?
Yeah, it's a new thing. I have not even bothered touching it at all because I've got no idea how to work it at all, but essentially you can have better quality items that then do their jobs better.
How does it feel knowing that at some point you're going to discover how to do it? And then you're going to go and have to switch out all of your accumulators because the benefit is going to be too much to ignore?
I'm not going to get into that position.
Okay, but wait, look at what Lightning Dragon just said. Hey, yo, hold up.
I'm not even using my accumulators, so I don't care.
Where are you getting your power from?
Oh yeah, I guess I am actually
Okay.
using them right now. Wait. Oh, you're not... Why are you not connected? Well, I seem to have lost connection to the rest of my power grid up there.
That sounds like a problem.
And here, apparently. Oh, right. I removed it. Oops. Okay, well, thankfully we got into this discussion, but most of my power is from solar panel, or it's about even between solar panels and steam engines.
What do you power the steam engines with? Like, because isn't steam ultimately powered by coal?
Right now it's solid fuel, but essentially yes.
Yeah, I mean, of course, I don't play Factorio nearly as long as you do because my brain looks at it and eventually gets bored. But it's just like usually I try to switch as much as I can away from it, so I don't have to keep feeding it. So I end up with like huge solar farms, basically.
Yeah, that's what
It's
I've
always a
got here.
pain.
Oh, I've just got this as a blueprint that I just slap down wherever I want one.
I'm so jealous. But I can never bring myself to it. Every time I play, I want to make my own stuff, and then I want to make my own blueprints, and then I look at people's, and I'm like, wow, that's really smart and efficient. Now I have to redo my whole thing. And I still haven't
Hello,
figured out
Furry.
trains.
Well, I have oh, right, lightning. You'll probably be happy to know I have gone away from the bi-directional tracks. Everything is now one direction. With the only exceptions being, stations.
Man, you know what? I'm changing my opinion. I used to think Factorio was a game built for industrial or civil engineers, but no. This is a game that is made for people whose job it is to design rail lines. So what is the
I
job
will say,
occupation?
it is rather impressive that the solar panels over here are managing to keep up with the requirements. Well, granted, it's only momentary requirements, but... Wait, what? Oh! Oh god, this base is just all sorts of messed up. Okay.
Time to fix it.
Thankfully, I'm right next to it, so... Yeah.
But actually, as a fun fact, solar has become broadly surprisingly efficient and effective IRL. Like there is a genuine likelihood that if we really pushed for renewables, solar would probably power far more than we think, far more cheaply than like the average person thinks. Like there's gonna be issues with it, don't get me wrong.
I would I would be so happy to start having more solar power all over the place. We have so many buildings with so little around them. I mean, imagine if Walmart started just putting solar panels on top of their buildings.
Okay,
Seriously.
To be fair, that is actually like something that's to be considered with renewables, because renewables have two advantages and disadvantages, which are the most efficient way to use them and the place where you're going to get most of your power most cheaply is if you just build giant solar farms far away from everything. Because you could take the entirety of Walmart, turn it into a solar farm. That would be much more efficient than if you just put solar panels on top. But they do have the added advantage that, like, if you start placing solar panels around the place, it will decentralize your solar panel network, which is good and bad, because you don't want every building having a solar panel, because that's generally bad for the environment. Like, you're using a lot of solar panels to generate fairly little power. They're not really efficient, and you're just going to end up with a lot more waste than you would imagine. But it's not bad if you like spread around some smaller solar farms, or you do have like some buildings have some solar panels around, because then that provides redundancy, right? Like, even if that solar farm goes down, you can still probably give power to that building. And the same applies for pretty much any renewable. Like, I've genuinely held that I would kill to see a very big structured overhaul of the power network that uses as much renewable as possible. I would love to see like solar farms scattered all over the country, wind farms scattered all over the country with like emphasis on having, including everything. Actually, for geothermal is incredible as a power source. It's basically perfect. Hydroelectric dams, solar panel farms everywhere, wind power farms everywhere. Spread it out and create something that's equal parts resilient, efficient, and basically, because okay, actually, to be fair, yes, hydro dams are bad, but they provide the one thing that the other can't, which is scalability. Like when you need power in a moment, which is what you're running into, like those power spikes, that's what renewables are usually really bad at doing. Because renewables are really bad at just ramping up power all of a sudden. That's usually what fossil fuels are really good at. But hydroelectric dams are basically the main renewable that can do that effectively.
I still think that they could be spread out. And I know that when we wind up getting a house, Rajan, Rex, Ren, and I am absolutely slapping solar panels on our roof. I don't think
like I said,
it'll
it's not-
actually cover all of the power that we're going to be using, but hey, considering how expensive, how damn expensive it's getting to just fucking pay electric now, a little bit helps.
I mean, yeah. I don't think it's inherently bad. I just don't. It's not the thing that, like. It's the kind of thing that's nice as little added bonuses where people want to do it, but it's not good to do it as, like, the backbone of your power source, if that makes sense. Because, like, yeah, power is expensive. And if you think this, like, if you think the solution is to just put solar panels everywhere,
That is not
you're going to
the
remain with the same issue.
only solution. That is not
Right.
the.
It should just
This
be part
is.
of like a.
I think that is a first step to the actual longer term solutions. I think it's something that should be part of the solution.
Yeah, part. I mean, the first step basically should always just be, hey, you see this city that's struggling with electricity costs? Slap a massive solar panel farm next to it, watch their electricity costs drop, and suddenly everyone's gonna want it. Which, it's pretty much continuously what's happened. The places that adopt really large renewable usage, basically it's like, oh wow, the air is cleaner, and like, they opened up a bunch of jobs nearby, and they're really high paying jobs, they're really good jobs. And also, like, my electricity is cheaper, and it's reliable because, like, your coal power plant can't have an accident or shut down because the turbine isn't working. The sun is always working, basically. And solar panels are really reliable and really good. It's good. They're really good. If anything, I think they're a massive missed opportunity because, like, imagine if this country just decided, you know what? Yeah, we're gonna make a shit ton of renewable, and we're going to make it. Like, we're gonna set up the factories for advanced solar panel production, advanced wind turbine production, and they just started setting them up all over the country to also fuel renewable transition. Like, yes, please. And it's cheaper. Like, I'm already saying, renewables are already cheaper than fossil fuels if you go through the, like, cost by hour metric, or the cost to, like, overall start transitioning into them. Because, yeah, all of them are gonna have issues. But, burning oil, natural gas, or coal is already really bad.
It's really bad and really expensive and much more than they realize compared to other options we have available.
Like, one moment, my headphones died. Sorry, I didn't hear anything you said if you did. I didn't realize my headphones died.
I got into calculating things for my base and have subsequently forgotten what I was going to say.
Listen. This game does things to your attention span.
Yes.
Yeah, I really, really wish we could just do a lot of that stuff. And mind you, like, you know how like Factorio has that feeling where everything comes together and it's really satisfying?
Sure.
Like at some point, yeah, like at some point the factory all just starts working together. Like you get the entire production chain organized, right?
Yeah.
In a weird way, I always have kind of gotten the same vibes from like broader power network infrastructure. Because basically all of it is just a giant piece of a puzzle. Like everything has to depend on each place, its location, country, what it's willing to tolerate, what it's willing to do, and so on. But honestly, a lot of it just comes down to like any single power source has issues. And if you want to make a nearly or completely renewable power network, you just have to have the advantages of each other one complement the other one. Like,
Fruit? I
nuclear-
would love to go the nuclear power route, but we can't exactly do that at our own home.
What do you mean? Just build a nuclear reactor at home, you know? What's the worst that could happen? I'm sure if you take a bunch of like 70s glow-in-the-dark toys, you can make a nuclear reactor. Just put them all together. I wonder if Labubus contain nuclear components. Oh my god,
But
the Furbies.
we're
have them.
going to be swapping or ending stream here. Because I was going to end 15 minutes ago, and yeah. So, thank you everybody for joining us on the stream today. That was Factorio. Check out our website, zgfgaming.com. We've got links for our Discord, Telegram, Mastodon, Blue Sky, Patreon, and more. They are on the website as well as down in the description below through our link tree. Thank you to my patrons, tippers, and subscribers. It is your support that keeps this channel alive and going. I cannot do this without your guys' help and your support, so thank you. Consider becoming a patron over at patreon.com/zgfgaming. It's one of the best ways to help out the channel, though you can also do so by sharing the stream around, using our Humble Bundle partner link, picking up packs of cards to stream loots, or subscribing to us on YouTube, as well as Spotify. But for now, thank you so much for joining, and I bid you the most fondest adieu.
Fine.